are we settled in our seats? Whether you were here earlier.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
So what's a good thing to do first? This is a quiz. Intention. Sounds good. Let's set an intention. So all that means is consciously, bringing a reason for being here, and then setting an intention to sort of use your time well for whatever reason it is that you can. So if it's curiosity, it means, you kind of have to listen to, kind of meet that curiosity. If it's to be here at all, you have to bring your attention here. So one way to do that is to just bring your attention to your body sitting here, to drag it away from the busyness of getting here and the planning for later. Just be aware of your presence here right now. And then recall the reason you came. And try to set an intention to use your time well. And then it's really nice if you can combine that intention with the wish that it be a benefit, not only just for yourself or your own mind or your own curiosity, but that benefit will ripple out beyond yourself to benefit those around you. And to help us with our motivation, let's recite the prayer on page 34 of the Gold Prayer Book. Please share copies. Yeah. I only need one because I memorized a different version, so I don't get the words right. Oops. So page 34. Okay. The four immeasurables. So just keeping in mind that the four immeasurables are states of mind. So it's trying to cultivate going from, we all have these states of mind because they're compassion, love, joy, and equanimity. Well, we might not have equanimity. We'll have to work on that. So, but it's this idea of cultivating them so that it grows and expands to include more and more beings until it can include all living beings. So may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for friends. So I was reading or listening or doing something yesterday, and the compassion cultivate. I forgot what it's called. The Sea Care from Stanford. It's looking at one of their compassion program things. The Thupten Jinpa, Geshe Thupten Jinpa. It's one of the. He is the main translator for His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he's in North America. He lives in Canada. He was a monk for a long time. So he's a scholar. He's a geshe, as well as has a marvelous affinity for language. So, but he's part of a program that was started in Stanford University. A lot of universities right now have developed programs of research and R&D, I guess, in looking into things like compassion and, what does that mean and how do we, can we grow it kind of thing. So anyway, but he was saying yesterday, I thought this was really interesting. People ask me all the time, what does the word sentient being mean? What does sentient mean in this context? And so my standard answer, it's a living being with a mind, that's the key. Well, he had a different definition yesterday. He said, sentient being is a creature who can feel pain. And I thought that really nailed me. It's like, that's the point, is that we, that the whole purpose of Buddhism is learning how we can cut that pain, because we all feel pain. So we all suffer, and that we're trying to understand what the causes of that are and how we might be able to intervene and actually reduce our suffering. So it's an ambitious idea, isn't it? But it's, this is probably the purpose of all spiritual paths, is to try to find ways to reduce our suffering, whatever way we want to define that, because it's not just physical suffering, it's mental suffering. In fact, probably the bigger problem is the mental suffering, because the nature of this body, is vulnerable. So we can't really, and it eventually fails. So we can't rely on it in terms of it, it doesn't last forever, and it doesn't even work every day. It's not like it works fine, then you're old, but, and it doesn't work. No. It's like it just doesn't always work. It's not reliable. But our response to that, the way our mind responds to that, can be quite helpful or not. So how does our mind play a part? Another quiz question.
Well, one way is the fact that it tends to view things as being permanent, including our own body.
So in one way, it tends to view things as permanent, like the body. So so what?
Well, that leads ultimately to the realization that that's not true, and it causes suffering when you have had that mistaken belief.
Why? Why does thinking that somehow the body is permanent, why does that lead to suffering?
Because you experience change and dissolution, and eventually your body will fail or something like that.
Because we will experience change. So, if we wake up in the morning and something new hurts, and our response to that is disbelief, like that, we start to add some mental suffering on top of the physical suffering. Because just that mind that says, this can't be happening, or why is this happening? I even exercised yesterday. How dare it happen? These are ways in which we agitate our mind and make the experience of the body worse. How does it do that? How does it make it worse? You think I'm going to do all the work, don't you?
By squeezing in, making things smaller instead of a spacious mind.
By squeezing it. Well, in one way, and I'll try to understand, from my point of view, that would mean, that we're narrowing our focus onto this one thing, this one aspect of the moment. And often it's something negative. It's like, oh, I hurt. So drawing our attention to that spot. And then what do? It said something about tight.
you make a story about it, like, oh, why do I always have to have this pain? And like you said, I exercised yesterday and I usually feel good, so why am I feeling that?
And we also, this tightness, we're grabbing hold, aren't we? It's like, oh, let's make sure I'm focused on this. As if that's going to be skillful. Now, it is true that it's not like useless to bring our attention to it, because there might be something we could do about it. You know, like, I don't know about you, but I occasionally fall asleep with my glasses on, you know, and so when you wake up and there's, something like wrong, sometimes it's my glasses, in some weird configuration, poking myself at. So it's not like it's useless to see if there's something you can remedy the pain with, but that just requires a little checking in. Oh, let's check in with this, see if I can do anything about it. And then you move on if you can't do anything about it. But we tend to not do that. And this is what we want to learn, that this zeroing in, we want to check what our habits are. If we tend to zero in on the negative, or perhaps you zero in on how many things you have to do today. And so you're already plotting through your day. You're already just hooked by that. And, that's setting the tone. So what are alternatives to that?
Seeing a problem as a opportunity instead of a negative.
Well, yes, we can do that. Like, one of the things we can do with, say, a physical pain is, what can we say to that?
Like a drug.
But you could do that. I'm not, But what's one of the things you can think?
Realize that it's purifying karma.
Okay, that's one thing you can think. How about just something simple like, oh, I must be alive if I'm hurting. And that's good news. So it's like, sometimes we have to reach for it, because it's to our benefit to reach for it. If our mind immediately goes to something negative, then it's worthwhile to take the energy to go, okay, how can I, put this in perspective? Is that all I feel? And that's sometimes why scanning your body can be helpful, just to kind of go, oh, there's spots that don't hurt. Yay, so we can shift our focus away. If we have a long to-do list, I can announce that people were filming today. Sorry, there are people filming today from Lynn University for a course. And they're just doing it from the back. So don't name names if you ask questions, So anyway, and if you object, I think you see them. So, yes.
As a meditator, why not, when you feel the pain, if you interpret the pain, use the Buddhist concept of going to the source of the pain and leading you to meditation, because I know that meditation, while you're meditating, you're paying less.
Why? Why are we paying less?
Probably because our mind.
That's right. The source of the pain is the mind. The body sends signals, right? To tell us, oh, by the way, you're in danger. That's what, pain is. It's a danger signal. So that's why you want to check in. The mind can check in and go, am I in danger? How many of us are in danger when we wake up with aches and pains?
An indication that something's
Yes. So if you do want to check it out, right? Because this is the body's way of letting us in on, that something might be wrong. What if you have chronic pain?
Not in danger.
You're not in danger.
Speaking as one of
You've already checked into it. And so if it's the same kind of pain that you felt yesterday, you're going to feel an hour from now or whatever, you would kind of go, oh, yeah, well, set it aside. There's no reason to focus on it because the signal is misguided. It's just what your body does, but we don't have to listen. We can go, oh, yeah, well, thanks for sharing, but it's not useful. It's this understanding that we may not be able to stop the body from signaling us, but we don't have to listen because it's not always correct. You know, if there's no remedy to the situation, there's nothing you can do about it. You know there's nothing you can do about it, that you know that this is just, you know, the way, you know, this is the, you know, this is normal for you, then you can choose to put your mind on something else. Yes.
I'm in the health field, and I know that if you have pain, the body is signaling something that something is out of whack. So why not use that as a signal to pursue it, to see what's the source of it by going to some medical doctor or someone.
Well, that's what
who
I'm
can
saying.
analyze
That's what
the
I'm
pain.
saying. Yes, first you do check it out. But if you have learned, there's nothing you can do. Okay? So we moved on from checking it out to a situation where you're not in danger. Like when I started to have arthritis, you know, I had to find out the difference between pain that was harmful and pain that just was what I was going to experience. You know, so I know when I was aggravating something and when I wasn't. You know, so, you know, these things are useful because there's, you know, we want to use our intelligence. We want to use our resources that are around us. We also want to use our inner wisdom to be able to decide where we want our mind to focus. You know, so that we can use it most skillfully. So we can choose to not dwell in a place that is not useful. So this is one of the reasons why developing a habit, when you wake up in the morning, you develop a habit of setting a motivation, setting an intention, remembering what's important to you, taking some minutes of meditation to settle the mind from, you know, especially when you're fresh in the morning, you know, it's like you haven't stacked up all those things from the day. So you're kind of renewed from the rest, hopefully. And so you can use that as a starting point to really help direct your day as opposed to being dragged around by your habits, either of mind or by your job or whatever your habits are.
Is it different for a painful obsessive thought? Because I've heard people tell me, oh, you shouldn't try to avoid it completely because then you'll never get rid of it. You learn to sit with it.
Well, it's about focusing or not focusing. It's not like if you decide, oh yeah, I know what that is, no worries, that it goes away. You know, it's that you just don't give it any energy to take over. You understand the difference? So if you have the habit of going back to it, you know, it's about breaking that habit. Because by focusing on it, you are making it take over more of your mind space. Your mental space is being taken up with this awareness of the discomfort. You know? So it's about, yeah.
I can relate, and I heard I'll say something that should really help me is don't bring those thoughts to tea.
Don't bring them to tea. Yes, this is again this idea about patience. You know, and I had a question in the break about wrathful deities. You know, these images in Buddhism that, you know, are sometimes very fierce. You know, and it's about understanding that we don't necessarily have to be patient with our unskillful states of mind. We have to be patient with ourselves about the fact that we have them, but we don't have to be patient we don't have to invite them to tea and serve them cookies and feed them. I mean, that's literally this idea of feeding them, is that we kind of, you know, we develop a comfort with being with them as opposed to saying, okay, I'm going to move on from this to something else. You know? So it's about, and meditation is helpful because it helps you learn that you can do that. You know, that you don't have to respond to every, tweak of the body, that you don't have to respond to every thought that comes up in the mind, that you can, like, literally not listen to every thought that comes into your mind. And you can observe the patterns of thinking. So you can kind of start to notice, oh, I really do have a lot of negative thoughts arise. I really do focus on what's wrong, and is that helpful or not? And then we can actually actively, throughout the day, learning how to observe your mind when you're sitting quietly at home is just a practice session. Because we can carry that same calmer, quieter, observant mind around all day. Doesn't mean your mind won't have, it's how we respond to our mental. Just like we can control our bodies to a certain extent. Where was I going with this? Okay. You know how sometimes you simply cannot respond to something physical. Say, I love how sometimes, your mind just won't cooperate and give you anything. Okay, I'm just going to say something stupid. Okay, so we'll deal with that. Okay, so say you get stung by a bee, but you're in the middle of very fast traffic. So you can't really do anything about it in that moment without, causing even more serious harm to the body, because you need to stay focused on what you're doing. And we can do that, can't we? We all have had experiences where if you turned your attention to some surprising event that just happened, you'd get killed because you'd run into the wall or something. I mean, we've all had that happen. You might have to think deep about it and try to pull one out. But, I one time I had a wasp in my apartment. This was way pre-Buddhist days, So I went into my closet, got a long sleeve shirt on, long pants on, a hat, and a tennis racket because I was going to get that wasp. So it stung me on my foot. I'm not kidding. It's just, like, oh, forgot to put on shoes. Okay. So that was really hilarious. But, so sometimes you just have to let go. But it's this, it's this, we need to use these skills we actually have in an emergency. We need to be able to start, choosing to use them to help us overcome our habits of mind. Recognize that, oh, I can put my focus here, even though it keeps wanting to go over here. But I know going over here is not helpful. So I'm going to bring it back here. And again, and again, and again. What helps us in that emergency? What state of mind is it that helps us keep our focus where it needs to be?
Concentration.
Yeah, that's the skill. But why? Why do we do it?
We don't want to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, none of us want to suffer ever. But in that situation, what is it that you're determining?
Priorities.
Avoid agitated states of mind.
No.
Wisdom.
Well, you need wisdom. You need concentration.
Is this when you're driving?
Yeah.
Well, your life instinct.
I don't want to get killed in this moment. So I'm just going to ignore this bee, So, this is what we need to understand. We have about the importance of our motivation for our mind. That if you want to suffer less, have more happiness, then you need to take your mind seriously. You need to understand that the source of your suffering is your mind. And so learning to control the mind, so to speak, learning to cultivate positive habits of mind and drop these unskillful habits of mind is like saving your life. That we need to develop our motivation so that we'll get up and sit in meditation in the morning. So we'll set a motivation before we even, get out of bed, so that we understand that it's just like saving our life in a car. We have to pay attention to what we're doing. That's the key. And most of us, because we grasp to this self and don't want to get killed in the car wreck, that just naturally arises. We need to cultivate this desire to reduce our suffering states of mind with the same kind of energy. We need to recognize that it really is, it's like, this recognition. First, you have to explore. You may not buy into this idea that our mind is a huge contributor to our suffering states. So you need to explore that. Look at it. Really investigate it. Look at your mind. See its states of mind. See the results of your states of mind. See if if you can see some relationship there. If you see that there is a relationship there, then you need to be able to kind of go, oh, this is kind of important to me. If you look to see how the state of your mind affects your experience of your life, so if you're struggling with your mind, which we all do when we're concerned, but if you feel like you're struggling with your life in some way, that it's just not bringing enough contentment or meaningfulness or purpose or whatever, then we look to the mind to see where we're not using our wisdom. But we really need to cultivate this idea that it's like we're in a car careening towards a wall. And press on the brake. I'm tired of careening into this wall of negative thought over and over and over again. It's killing my spirit. Whatever we have to do, we need to understand that, this kind of sense of it's, not enough is coming from within. And that if we want to have a better experience, we have to take that seriously. We need to understand how much of a contributor our mind is. And we all have evidence of this in little ways. Well, how do we have evidence of that? Another quiz question. Keeping you on your toes or not.
We often, my experience is that I often think things that are not accurate. And then those inaccurate thoughts cause me to anticipate problems that will never arise and to be upset about things that never happen. So that is one way in which.
Well, so one of those things is when things are going well, say something, you're in a really good mood because something's going your way. Like you woke up and you weren't in pain, It can be little stuff. But, or you just got a new job, or you just got good news, something, whatever. How that influences that day. That somehow it's a lot easier to let go of little, things that might irritate you in some other day. We just need to see that. Oh, that's right. My mind influences, my state of mind influences how I experience the day. So when we don't have the good news, we need to understand that we can cultivate a mind that is at ease, whether you have good news or not. And whether what's happening is something you want or not. So we're always coming back to attachment because we're driven by trying to feed this desire for something we like or want or find interesting or entertaining or blah, blah, blah. And we're constantly driven by our attachment to be separated from what we don't like and what we don't want, what we don't, whatever. And that is a constant state of dissatisfaction. There's no chance to be peaceful if you're spending all your time chasing. You're either going towards what you like or running away from what you don't like. And that right there is not pleasant because it emphasizes this state of dissatisfaction. Whereas if you just stay with whatever is and not feel like you have to run away, or make sure it never ends. One of those two attitudes, we will avoid this roller coaster thing. And imagine just what it might feel like to find everything okay. Just this is good enough. I can handle this, whatever. Is that as inconceivable to you as it sometimes is to me? That's kind of like, oh, really?
I think for me, sometimes it's the discernment, right? So there may be things that aren't really not okay in the sense that there has to be some action that should be taken or something.
Okay, well, that's different.
Right. And so that's where I sometimes go a little bit.
But what you're saying, staying with whatever is does not mean inaction. Obviously, we get nothing done. If we wake up in the morning, we just stay there. That's not the idea. The idea is recognizing, if something can be fixed, I'll fix it. You don't have to worry about it. You just fix it. You explore. Can I remedy this? And if you can, then by all means, remedy it. But if you can't, then what do?
Say, oh, well.
Oh, well, yes, you just deal with it. I got my bill. I got my estimated cost of health insurance for next year. I made the mistake of opening that this morning. It's $1,034 a month. It's like, are you kidding?
For how many people?
Me. I mean, I know I'm a lot of work, but really? So, but this is just, okay, this is what it is. Oh, I come to work. I get here for work, and there's a news crew. I mean, I'm exaggerating, And I am like the most anxious person in the world to do public speaking. The fact that I show up here at all is like such a miracle to me every class, So, so of course, my habit energy, well, let's get mad. And so, of course, I get mad. Fortunately, I was going straight into meditation, so I could get over myself. It's like, but it's this recognition, I am making myself suffer. It's like, so, and I knew when I was opening this thing that there was a high probability that this is what it was, an announcement about, what it was going to cost, and I wasn't going to be thrilled with the answer and da-da-da-da-da. So it was this opportunity. Okay, time to practice, so you open up, look at it, okay. And then you let it go. Because certainly there's nothing I can do on Sunday morning to worry about it, It's this recognition we don't have to be dragged around by external events. That we can intervene in some way of saying, okay, I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about this. I'll do what I can do and, whatever. So, and that at times we have to actively, intervene. Like if you get mad, you have to sit there and go, okay, chill out. I'm not going to be patient with this mind that's getting impatient or angry or whatever. I just need to let it pass. I'm not going to feed it. I'm not going to justify it. I'm not going to rationalize why it's an appropriate way to react, because it's not an appropriate way to react because I'm suffering. And I don't need to suffer. I don't have to choose to suffer. Lama Yeshe says that giving into the mind of attachment, because that's what that is. The anger is attachment to, getting what you want, not the other way around. So anger arises because you're not getting what you want. So he says it's like prostrating in gratitude to somebody threatening to kill you with a knife. Because that's exactly what it is. It's this idea of like, oh, yay, anger's arisen. Please, may I suffer more, We act as if we don't have any choices. We just are dragged around. Now, the Buddha would say you're correct in the sense that right now, most of us are out of control from our habits. But just like we can get a hold of ourselves, so to speak, when we're in a meeting with the boss, we can start to take our own state of mind is equally important. That it's not just, oh, so I can keep my job or not lose my life in the car, but because I want happiness and I want less suffering. So I want to address this state of mind that's arising because it's important to me, because I value my state of mind. And I may not just value it for myself, but I know that when I'm agitated, I don't treat others well. So everybody benefits if I take care of my mind. It's not a selfish act. We don't have to worry about somehow self-care is self-centeredness. Attachment is that. Attachment's all about getting what we want and not getting what we don't want. Yes.
So identifying it would be probably the first step, right?
Yeah.
Seeing that you're having these thoughts. What would be the beginning stage to redirect?
Okay, first you just have to observe it. So what's before that?
Huh?
So you have to decide, I'm going to pay attention to what's going on in my mind. So then you start to pay attention, and then you notice, oh, there I go. Oh, attachment has arisen. Is that you understand how unreliable it is as a source of information. So a state of mind that is either, that is the craving something you want or craving to be separated from something you don't want is exaggerating the situation. The craving itself is either exaggerating the desirableness of whatever's going on or the negativeness, I'm making up words, of what's going on. So it's not reliable, so we shouldn't act from that place. So you just do nothing for a moment. You don't. I'm sorry?
Like a log.
Yes. This is why Shantideva in his text, Bodhisattva Deeds, or the many different translations, where we say the dedication prayers at the end, they're from Shantideva's text. And so he was a wise Indian master from the 8th century, I think. But so he says, the first response when you're alert, oh, I'm out of control with my mind, is to be like a block of wood. You have no facial expression. no words, no body language of trying to escape or, trying to embrace. You just try not to do anything and let the moment pass. Because our states of mind are impermanent. It will pass. If we don't feed it and give it more power to go to the next one, the next one, the next one, and then you're still talking about it tonight, kind of thing, we just wait it out. And then when it subsides a little bit, then we can kind of look at, do I want to follow this state of mind or not? Do I want to give in to this impulse or not? Because that's what it is. It's an urge. And mostly we fail at it when we start. We recognize it and then, and we follow it. Oh, please. I know this dance. I'm going to keep going. So we just, it's just a matter of getting in the habit of noticing it. And then, of course, if you do act on it, you notice what's the result of that. Is that a satisfactory result or not a satisfactory result? And then that helps give you some reasoning of why you want to overcome this state of mind. Yes.
We talk a lot about how we respond to something that's unpleasant, but if the goal is to remain at ease despite the vicissitudes and of your experience, are we supposed to pull back from pleasurable experiences as well?
It's about craving. It's not about the experience itself. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with enjoying things. There's nothing, that's not a problem. Our problem is that we think our happiness is in there. We actually think, like, I actually clearly believe there's an ingredient called deliciousness in chocolate. That it's like one of the recipe things, and I'm always shocked when I meet someone who doesn't like chocolate. And I just kind of can't get it, Well, that's because of my insistence on believing that there's happiness in the chocolate. Now intellectually I know, well, that's ridiculous. But my habit, just because I want to, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to continue with that belief? What do I think's in it for me? Because I like chocolate, and I want to justify that it's reasonable for me to like chocolate, and it's reasonable to want chocolate as much as I do. So that's the clinging. That's this idea that, like if I'm out of chocolate, like, oh my goodness, somehow my life is not going to be as good. So we have to work with that. We need to recognize it's not the object. It is our attitude about the object. That's the problem. So it's about, and one of the ways that we can practice with these states of mind, both whether it's going towards, the wanting to be separated from or wanting to have more of, is to use the opportunity with small stuff to say, to not give in to it. And just learn to tolerate the discomfort of not running away or not indulging the craving.
I understand we're using the word attachment a lot, and I understand it's a major cause of suffering, according to the second insight of the Buddha. But I noticed in the prayers today there is this statement that I would like you to explain. It says we want to be free from attachment for friends.
Yeah.
I don't understand because we're social animals.
What we want to do is have the same loving concern for everyone, not just our friends. That's the clinging part. The problem isn't having friends and having preferences for who we want to hang out with or not. Our problem is that we think our friends deserve more happiness than everybody else. that we will treat our friends in a different way at the expense of others, because we think they're our friends. So it matters whether they get some of this wonderful chocolate cake, and I'm not so worried about those strangers over there. So it's not the love or compassion that we have for people. It's when it's mixed with this, what's in it for me, this kind of idea that my happiness also depends on my friend's happiness, my family's happiness, which is true, but it also depends on the enemy's happiness, the stranger's happiness, that we are all interdependent and interconnected. And so we want to let go of this division in our hearts between friends, enemies, and strangers. So attachment is this exaggeration of the good qualities of something or the bad qualities. Then we call it aversion. But they're both this idea that somehow anything that has to do with me and mine is elevated in our minds, in our habits. And so we have this idea that I just need to take care of me and mine, and then happiness will be present. And so what the Buddha is trying to get us to understand is actually we are interdependent with everyone. We're interconnected with everyone, that our experience really does depend on everyone being free of free of suffering and attaining happiness. The simple example to me, sorry, I drink a lot of water, so I keep moving it out of the way. The simple example to me is, the one of world peace. There can't be world peace if there's one person who's angry, because they're part of the world. So it's that's the big view though. So right now in our, that all that we can actually impact is the people that we actually interact with. And those include friends, enemies, and strangers. It may not have, yes, go ahead.
I was just thinking about what I've also heard is that, and this is true, somebody who you conceive of as a friend may then go on to become a stranger if your lives drift in different
And they always
directions.
started off as a stranger.
Right, or they may do something that you perceive of as being harmful to you, and then your conception of them, because you feel aggrieved by what they've done, will change.
Yeah.
And that's the challenging part, is to remain in that state of equipoise.
Well, that equanimity of just recognizing that all your friends are somebody else's strangers. So that distinction between friends and strangers really doesn't amount to much, does it? It's really just a point of view. It's my friends, my strangers, my enemies. And all of those, what do you call it? Labels. I'll do. Labels, are interchangeable depending on whose point of view it is. So your friends are my strangers. And also, if we look, these things change from moment to moment. If you really look at how you respond to coworkers, that's a good environment to really see this shifting of things. Because you're not really friends with you may have coworkers that are also friends, but there are a lot of coworkers that really just are the people you work with. So sometimes they're people who are helping you. Sometimes they're people that you don't interact with at your job, and other times they're people that are in your way. So, and they change. So one time that the coworker is the person that is really helping you with some project, and the other time it's the person in the meeting, the same person who's complaining about something that you've done and thinks that there's a better way, and then they're your enemy. Our minds are just all over the place. Instead of hearing the words, we are responding, we're creating labels. We're judging before anything. Before we're able to actually hear what's being said. So we really want to look at the way we do that. And the main thing in Buddhism is just to keep remembering everybody we interact with wants happiness and wants to be free from suffering. And that we're all struggling to do that. We're trying to do that, achieve that. And we don't agree on how to do that. Also, we keep thinking it's outside of us. So we're trying to control everybody else. And everybody's trying to control everybody else. And so it can be a big mess. You know? So it's this understanding that having equanimity doesn't mean we like everybody the same. We have preferences. It means understanding, though, that we are all the same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering, and that nobody has to earn this right. This is just existence. And that a human being isn't any different from, the dogs in the world that also want happiness and don't want to suffer. This is a natural response. Why would anybody want to suffer? What we can learn is how to take things that normally we associate with, anybody would suffer if this was happening, into an opportunity to work with our mind. But those things we can't remedy are those opportunities where we can go, okay, let's see if I can not add suffering to this. If I can just, relax that this is the way this is and not create a story around it that makes it worse. So observing is a necessary step of that, being aware how we're responding to things. And then recognizing, that we can choose how to respond if we're observing. If we're not observing, we just kind of get pushed by our habits. Oh, I always respond this way. We don't even think about it. It's just we respond. So the more that we spend some time meditating on observing the mind, the more we can bring that habit to the day and have more choices, because we can make the choice. We can go, oh, yeah, I get to see, where I'm headed. I think I'm going to not do that. Now, we may not be able to do anything else. That may hold all of our energy is just, I'm not going to react or overreact or however, but it may take a little while to be able to then respond with a different attitude, to like, oh, I'm going to see this as an opportunity for personal growth, So, yes.
I don't know if this is right or wrong, but what I do is I try to figure out what my role is. More when there's situations or problems, they're different. Situation and problem is different. But I go, okay, I'm going to live with it. And how do I live with it? So I imagine, okay, I'll walk away when he picks his nose or something, like that. Then I'm going to change, and the only thing I can change is myself. So what am I going to do to help change not getting me upset? So I go back and forth, and then I go, I'm done. I'm eliminating it, which is not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. But it helps
Like your
me.
state of mind or the situation.
Yeah, but what helps me is to analyze where I'm at in that whole thing. If I'm,
Yeah, that's exactly analytical meditation. This is why you don't have to be sitting on a cushion to do it. But you do need the awareness of seeing, oh, okay, I'm always uncomfortable in this situation. So what part am I playing in this? Do I choose to continue? Can I reframe it? If I take away my response to this, will I see it differently? Because sometimes it's just a matter of like recognizing that perhaps someone's words don't sound pleasing, but that the words themselves actually aren't criticism or whatever. It's just someone's,
Way they say it.
it's the way they say it. And that, you realize, oh, I've got to quit reacting to this tone of voice or this body language. Maybe you remind you of someone you used to not like. So it's not useful information. It is obscuring you from the actual meaning of what's going on, so we can choose to set that aside, and eventually you won't notice that part because you keep setting it aside and you're able to hear the words and realize this person's not trying to harm me. There's someone behind you. Anthony.
So, thank you for sharing that. And I noticed that she's using a practice of guarding her mind by avoiding certain situations. So my question is, how do you draw the line between saying, hey, I need to learn to accept and deal with this, and then the other line being, I need to guard my mind and avoid this situation?
Well, some of it is just about, obviously, as we, gain abilities by leaps and bounds, and then we're bodhisattvas, right? Then everybody, we should tolerate. So, until that point. So, when we're beginners, we really have to look at how strong our response is. Like, first of all, there are a lot of people we don't have a choice about, like coworkers, Now, it doesn't mean you have to go to lunch with them, but we have to recognize that we can't control the externals. But if we can, like who we hang out with in our so-called leisure time, if anybody has any, we do have a choice about that. And just like they recommend, like if you're trying to, be good at tennis, you play with people who are better than you. That you don't surround yourself with people you're trying to change. You try to start with yourself. So it's helpful to be around other people who seem to have a healthy, boundary, whatever, But if you have to see what your reaction, decide if you are able to, intervene with yourself. And if you just can't seem to do it, if you keep losing it, then maybe you need to step back from that relationship for a while. There's no easy answer to these things.
What about helping others?
What about helping others?
The boundaries or knowing when you should intervene and not to intervene
if you have doubt, don't do it. I mean, really, that's the advice I've been given by much more senior monastics. It's just sort of like the doubt may be a clue that you don't have the skill, of being able to intervene. But also, this comes back to this idea of thinking that helping others is changing them. And that may be a mistaken notion right off the bat. Because first of all, we can't really do that. It's an inner process. It's like we can have healthy, good discussions with each other to help support ourselves in trying to work on our minds and see where, but the real work is internal. This is something we have to work on ourselves. So it's about the relationship. So it just depends on the ground of the relationship, whether or not, this takes a lot of wisdom. There's not a checklist. Basically, if you ask the Buddha, they'll say anybody who needs it, you help. Anybody who asks for help, you help. Anybody that, whether you like them or not, whether they need help or not, if they ask you to help, you help. If they ask you to give something, you give it. These are the ideals. We work towards being able, because it's all about letting go of the I. Oh, I'm too tired. I don't have enough to share. I don't want. So we're working to expand that to get the I out of there, to be able to actually look and say, is that true? And who cares if I'm tired? I can sleep when I'm dead. That kind of philosophy. So, this is this is the thing, but we're trying to guard our mind, right? So if every time we're trying to help someone, we end up yelling at them or stomping off or acting like that, in our mind, we might not do any of those things, but in our mind we're going, God, this person's such a jerk, then we're not guarding our mind. It is, we need to really look at that. And we don't want to practice the mind that's judging people thinking they're jerks. That's not helpful. That's not a skillful state of mind to have.
I recently was dealing with someone that I find very difficult. And I think it was in Mama Yeshi's On Death and Dying book. He says you should treasure the difficult people that you find because they give you the opportunity to practice. And I found just thinking about that when I was interacting with them helped me sort of turn off those emotions that were, and believe me, the impulse to snap back or the impulse to get angry and defend myself because
of your self-judgment. Yes.
Those were I'm very good at those things.
We all are. That's why we're still.
And I was really surprised at how when those words came back to me in the moment, how it really I was shocked by how it diffused this.
Well, and this is one of those tools. So you bring things to mind, and when it doesn't diffuse it, it's reasonable to say I'm not there yet. But we do want to see if we can go further than we think we can. So we don't want to trust our current level of wisdom because it may not be very high, so we need to, especially if it's a new idea, this idea that self-care might actually mean giving more of yourself than you think you can, that's part of self-care, discovering how spacious our abilities actually are, and not always putting up walls. But it's, we have to have that ability to go too far, back off a little bit, or make mistakes, and then you just kind of try again. So it's not about finding, there isn't some perfect solution. It's really about developing our wisdom more and more so we can trust our inner wisdom and let it help guide us. Right now we're being guided by habits of mind, not reasoned wisdom. We're just jumping from, one reaction to the next with our minds. And this is what we do. This isn't weird. The trick is understanding that the more you observe your mind, you actually find the space to choose whether you're going to follow this theme or not. And there's certain things, by reading the teachings or by, that you can start to see, oh, my habit of judging others maybe isn't helpful. Maybe when it arises, I can just go, probably not helpful. So, set it aside. My reaction of impatience or my reaction of anxiety. I suffer really from anxiety. So, recognizing, this is, you are now under the grip of anxiety. So be, careful, caution, the little flashing signs, you're not to be trusted. So, this kind of, really examining your habits and just kind of going, oh, when it's there, it's there. You have to wait it out. But you don't have to do anything. You don't have to act on it. You can recognize for the misinformation that it is, and not let it direct you. But this takes the habit of noticing, of just being aware. As soon as that little bitty catch, in your gut arises, that discomfort, you go, okay, what's going on? What button's just been pressed? So that you can examine and make choices about what you do next or think next. And this is just a practice. And the more you bring into minds, this is why it's so helpful that when you read something that really resonates with you, that it, inspires you to go to a different place in your mind, that you memorize it so that it's there. You read it again and again and again, so that when you're out there in the thick of things, you remember it. So that it can kind of diffuse the situation and inspire you to do something different.
It's amazing how it can go from enraging to funny in a moment.
Yeah.
Just because you're thinking about it differently.
Yeah. Well, think about how quickly we get enraged. Maybe not everybody. I can get enraged really quickly. It's like, our minds are very, very fast. And if we're observing it, we're using the same very, very fast. It's our minds can keep up. We can observe our minds. The mind is doing the observing. So it's not like, it's that we have to recognize how distracted we are. This is why practicing, sitting quietly, settling the mind is so helpful, because it helps us learn how to not be pulled in a gazillion different directions. Because as soon as something happens, as soon as the air condition kicks in, we get distracted. As soon as someone coughs, we get distracted. As soon as someone says something that we recognize, we get distracted. We're constantly distracted. Oh, I smell coffee. Ooh. You get distracted. It's amazing how often we have all this inputs. We have these 5 senses inputting constantly. And we have the habit of chasing what we like and what we don't. And so it's like, okay, let's turn down the temperature. Let's turn the temperature. Let's eat. Let's not eat. Let's Yeah. So, and you're trying to observe your mind. So you have to practice that. And recognize that we don't have to follow the distractions. It takes effort, and we're going to often not succeed, but that's okay. It's just part of the practice. And this thing about our, I can't remember who said it when, but the seeing problems as opportunities. Really respecting the fact that all of our good qualities have evolved from those situations. That we've learned how to be more patient because of something demanding it. That we've learned to be kind because someone is suffering. That our good qualities don't arise out of nothing. They arise from our interactions with each other. So it's this, this wonderful opportunity to kind of go, oh, this is a chance I can be, graceful. So, as opposed to just seeing it as, when is it going to end? So, which is another choice. But okay, well, so take a minute before I forget to introduce yourselves to each other.
I said I'm putting my phone I did, but I and you're the yellow filming students, right? I'm Peggy. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I thought you were gonna ask something hard. I don't know. That's
It might be tough.
you guys are from Lynn? Yeah. And you're doing
Peggy hasn't been here in a while, so I have to make sure she's just not getting to know everybody again. So, this, okay. All right. See, now all those strangers now have a name. So things change so quickly. Now they can be friends. Because we seem to require labels. Oh, all right. So let's take a moment to just observe our minds for a moment. So kind of sit up straight, like you're interested. Gently close the eyes. Take a few belly breaths. Let the air fill your lungs. Let your body be grounded here, comfortable in its seat. And then just observe the mind. You can just start by noticing if it seems agitated. We want to develop familiarity with the difference between observing thoughts and following thoughts. The difference between looking at the fish in a fish tank and looking at the water. If you focus on the breath for a few moments, this can allow the stillness of the mind to be more apparent. It's always there. And we can allow ourselves to settle beneath the waves, the ocean of our mind. We can find the space for it to observe the thoughts without following them, without being attached to them. See if you can allow the mind of gratitude to arise. Just find one thing. And when you're ready, just gently open your eyes. So I'm taking a poll. How many were grateful because there's only like 10 minutes left in class? Doesn't have to be a big thing. So. Is it easy to find that stillness? How about in this moment?
It's easier to find it here than with this Sangha than my own environment at home.
Yeah, and that's partly because of habit. Like we have the habit of following instructions. You know, okay, this is what we're doing now. It's a group. I'm not the only one. So, maybe you peek to make sure you're not the only one. but it's just, so it's feels safe. But also it's habit. It's a habit. We follow instructions. So I think it can help sometimes if you have a resistance to sitting in the morning to just picture in your mind others doing the same. They could be friends. You can think of all the monks and nuns in the world, that are likely spending some of their time that way. You don't have to feel like you're doing it alone. And it can help motivate you to feel part of a community. And it's worthwhile to think about, why do I think it's worthwhile even trying this? And think, oh, there are all these other people who think it might be worthwhile trying this. So maybe I'm not out of my mind and that it's okay to try this, But really that sense of, and everybody is breathing with you, whether they're asleep, whether they're awake, everybody is breathing. And this is part of our shared existence. So it's we need to bring up these images. It's helpful, not need or want or should, sorry. But, that we can choose to bring up these images to help us feel supported. That we're not just alone, the only person on the earth having to try to work with this mind. That everybody's trying to work with their mind, whether they know it or not. So it's just being supported by just one out of millions, billions of living beings seeking happiness. And whatever we can do to contribute to that happiness for ourselves benefits others. Finding a way to have a more decisive mind where we can be intentional through our day benefits everyone. So, assuming there's no serial killers amongst us. But, assuming that, if I read too many murder mysteries. So I just encourage you to, just to, that kind of thing, we have to decide, okay, I'm going to try this. And we decide, and then we follow through. And we don't do it for some exorbitant length of time. If you're new, you start with 3 minutes. You give yourself the time to get settled and, in the seat, and then give yourself the 3 minutes. But, then 5 minutes. Then 6 or 7 minutes. Because we need some time to let it settle. And then to help it be a condition for us to remember really how do I want my intentions to be today. We all have responsibilities, but we're going to include within them, I intend to be kind while I'm doing them. I intend to be mindful while I'm doing them. I intend, whatever. You don't make a long list of anything. Pick one. So, but it's just this, giving yourself the encouragement and the reminder. Oh yeah, that's right. Because we get pushed by all of our habits and all of our responsibilities and our routines. We want to introduce this into our routine so it becomes part of the routine. So it's no different than brushing your teeth or taking a shower, that you sit for a few minutes and take care of your mind. All right. So speaking of taking care of our mind, so we've spent, a bit of time this morning considering the possibility of being able to direct our minds. So that's taking care of ourselves. So that's a very positive activity, and it will benefit others. So according to Buddhism, every positive action that we take will ripen as something positive for us in the future, a positive experience. And so we want to practice generosity by sharing those benefits with all suffering sentient beings until there's a time where no one is suffering any longer. So we're going to read Sanchideva's dedication verses on page 244, 6. 246. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid of the little, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms, and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on my results. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those who in sorrow find joy. May the poor find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in this world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of that for each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as there can be remain, until then may I remain to dispel this misery for all. So what's up this week? This is, if you, I'm sure you all met Nicole, she's always out there helping people, but she's our director. So.
Yes, and I just want to say, I am grateful for your help, Venerable Clinton, and thank you for giving us this opportunity for, as a community, to come together and practice generosity, as we want to find a way to support Venerable Clinton and her health, because she's here to teach us the Buddhist teachings that we are so grateful, and to have this center, and we rely on generous sponsors and donors. So we're now looking for 10 to 30 people that would like to help sponsor your health insurance.
Oh, please, just give to the center. The center pays me an income, and that allows me to pay my bills. But literally, we don't have any support other than you. There's no, some organization out here that supports us. There's nobody. I mean, we are us. That's it. So, and we have bills for like everybody, and we pay rent like everybody and all those things. So, but thank you very much. I was just whining. So,
but really, I mean, and we had a board meeting yesterday, and we're talking about discussing these and making it more open so that our costs, because they are very expensive, and I'm very grateful to have this position to be able to share and help you guys, and so I hope are you too. So we'll just keep on trying to do our best by showing up and sharing in whatever way we can, whether it's your time, treasure, or talent. So thank you all so much.
So tomorrow night is
tomorrow night's visualization with Jackie Keeley.
So it's a meditation class on a particular type of meditation with visualizations. She's a wonderful meditation teacher.
And then Wednesday we have Medicine Buddha Puja.
Right, and that's a great practice. It's English, for those of who, like me, are intimidated by like Tibetan. But it's just a practice of trying to bring everybody to mind and wishing them, to be very much like this prayer we just said.
And then October 31st is a holy day.
So that's a week from Wednesday. Halloween. So if you're not into Halloween, feel free to come here and, do it's a prayer to the Buddha. So
What time is that?
7. Everything's sort of at 7. Yeah. Because we're simple.
And then November 4th, so that's 2 weeks from today. If you're interested in joining us for lunch, we will be eating at the Indian restaurant downstairs to celebrate a few of our upcoming birthdays, Ralph, Adrian, Lamo, Peggy. So everyone will pay for themselves, but it's a nice little way to get together and eat some food. And
it's a buffet. Yeah, the Indian on the weekends, they have a buffet, so we just
crash the interested in that. And then,
What day was that? 2 weeks?
November 4th.
Okay.
November 4th.
So it'll be on the calendar.
Yeah, and then Saturday, November 10th is a day of meditation that will be led by Jackie Keeley from 10 to 4, and we'll do a few different meditations and talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there's flyers out there on the bulletins for that. And then we just decided our holiday party is December 15th, so please save the date for that and join us for some curry. I'll be cooking.
And it's really, really good.
And we're going to do a silent auction too. So if anyone has special items they'd like to donate, because we are really trying to raise some money for the center. So thank you all so much and have a great day.
And we're continuing with Discovering Buddhism on
The items should be Buddhist
No,
items or
just
no?
talk to me or email me if
Okay.
you have an idea and we'll discuss.
Can I say something?
Yes, please, Beatrice.
I would like to say something from perspective person which a little volunteer here. This is wonderful opportunity to give a little bit generosity also and work on your mind. We have beautiful practice of offering water bowls, and you don't have to be trained, you don't have to be special person. You just need, if you feel comfortable here and you want to do it, we have small pages which you can read and get knowledge of what this is about. And sometimes you don't know how to offer something. This is great opportunity to do it. And also, if you like our place, please give us nice review on Google, on Facebook, because many people come here from internet. And if people see you like it, they are going like us too. So please come to me. I will be glad to show the water bowls, and once a month, twice a month, doesn't have to be very often. It's really, really beautiful practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Beata. And it's a way to practice generosity with no regret because you're offering water. I mean, so it's a way to be able to, if you have trouble with generosity or know that you have no money to be generous with, that's okay. This is an opportunity to be able to use your mind of practice to be able to be generous, and we all benefit from it. So it's so there are many ways to support the center. Just your presence is supporting the center. So it doesn't have to be any more than that. This is the community. We're only as big as the people who show up. So there you go. So I think. Oh, and I'm. What is this week? This is the last Thursday night on Death and Rebirth, and then a week from Thursday, is it really that time?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, is karma. So all about karma. So if you're interested in exploring these Buddhist topics, please come on Thursdays.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Or should I go and come back?